Boom, boom, how's it going? This is TJ, and yeah, we are out and about, and you can see today I am with my boy, Dumisani, and Dumisani, he is a town planner. I am not a town planner. I just know how to buy properties and build a business around it, but I can never do that if I don't have in my team a person like Dumisani. Why do I need a person like Dumisani? Is it because he looks handsome and he's bold better than me? No. It's because he is qualified as a town planner. He understands where the towns are going, what is the rules, the regulations, and he is the guy who makes sure that from a compliance perspective, everything else is correct. Welcome to Dumisani, and how are you doing?
I am good, and the weather looks very nice. We are still doing town planning, and we are hoping that we'll keep on doing town planning the right way, following the right procedures.
Awesome stuff. Dumisani, let's talk about submissions. There have been lots of submissions that's been happening, but there is something that you have been seeing of late that is happening in and around submissions in the different councils that you operate. And I'm glad that it is not one of our submissions that has an impact on that one. But I can also maybe accredit it to the town planner that I have. I'm sure you know the town planner that I'm talking about.
Yes.
But let's dive in to talk about the issues that are happening on the submissions.
Okay. Lately, with COVID, systems have changed a bit. But for us, we are saying they've also changed for the better. Because one of the things that we are realizing is that the way systems are changing, they will also allow clients to be able to track things online. You know, if you say Dumisani 1, 2, 3, 4 has been submitted, I say yes. There's councils that are now making it easier for you to be able to follow it online. You know, you can be able to go into council, punch on their computers, and it will tell you, yes, this has been submitted on this day. This is where it's at, and this is what is happening on it. However, the biggest issue that I wanted maybe us to look at is the issues related to the submissions on the subdivisions, because there's not been a clear indication to most clients to say how a subdivision submission really works. So a subdivision, it has two submissions. The first one is to do the actual division of the land into 2, 5, 10, 50 portions. Then it goes through the process of circulation, getting comments, and public participation. Then it gets approved. Once it's approved, the land surveyor comes in. Now he or she goes and pegs and take the pegging and submit it to an office which we call the Chief Surveyor General's office, which is the main office in the land to register the subdivisions, the consolidations. They will give him or her the approvals. Once the approvals are back, as a town planner, you must advise your client for the second phase, which today I'm from a meeting where people try to sell each other land that was subdivided in 2014. They let the approvals to lapse. Now the one who wanted to sell, let's say A wanted to sell to B, but A sold and left. And after he has left, he didn't sell to B, but he sold to C. But B is off the thinking that portion 1 will belong to me. And A has sold the entire land to C. Now C, when the land was registered, fell under C. And then B came and said, but I have a challenge here. The challenge is that the land you have bought, there's a portion that should belong to me. Then, you know, C with understanding said, okay, I think I had something of that nature. I'm giving you a month to sort your issues and get your piece of land. From 2014 to date, they could not resolve that matter. And that matter has lapsed. Now they called me in to say, come and assist us. So when I come there, I was the bearer of bad news today because I had to tell them the subdivision didn't exist. It never existed because it has lapsed. So it doesn't exist. Wow. And they are busy talking about portion 1 and the remainder. I'm like, don't stop referring to portion 1 and the remainder. This stand is stand number 5. That's what it is. Now they're even taking each other to court on litigation because C is now selling to D, and D does not want to take transfer up until the issues of B are resolved. You see, But
Right,
C is
right.
of the view that I was sold the entire land. This is what I was sold, the entire land, and I'm transferring the entire land. And this came because Part B of the subdivision was not done and followed through, which is, in the olden days, we used to call it Regulation 38. So a Regulation 38 will say, you cannot transfer a piece of land, especially in an approved township, without it having connection of water, connection of sewer, and at least a point of connection for electricity. So you'll have to do all of those connections and get the clearances. Then council will give your attorney or your conveyancer proposed title deeds that they can lodge to transfer the portion that you would want to transfer. So that part was never done. And now they are stuck because with C, the bond for D has been approved and it has been hanging for a year and 2 months. And now D has lost trust. They are thinking, hey, this deal is just a rotten deal, because they are afraid to take transfer and occupation to say B might want to come and claim against them and C would be gone, which is what has happened. A is gone. They moved to New Zealand. They left this mess. They sold. They moved to New Zealand. So it's important that you don't only not get progress every month, every week, or daily from your planner, because the more progresses you get, then you are at least knowing to say how far is what. And one of the things that I've been teaching most of our clients is, remember, the development is yours, it's not mine. So it's important for you to form part of this. If possible, come with me every stage. Let me teach you every stage to say, even the day Dumisani is not there, you have appointed someone else. At least you have a bit of a knowledge to say how the process runs in council. Someone cannot just come and bulldoze you and tell you this and that, but you have done this process a number of times with Dumisani or with town planner C somewhere else. Now comes D, and they keep on telling you things that are not there. So it's important to ensure that you understand the phases of submission. And if you can understand that, it will be easier for you. And even when the time frames are delayed, you can understand where the bottleneck is at and how then your town planner is having a solution to come and resolve that bottleneck.
You know, Dumisani, what you're saying here, it's pretty interesting because the party A might have sold this property for maybe 100,000 and they left for New Zealand because they wanted to migrate. They didn't want anything to do with South Africa. And party B, well, saw the opportunity, but they didn't have the muscle to build this. And they decided, well, let me sell it for 500. But if I sell it to C, if I sell for 500, I'm making profit and I'm going to keep a portion for myself. So I'm literally getting this for free. And this is common. It happens all the time. And now the person who is now on C is like, okay, then that's great. But they are also thinking, maybe let me sell it for R1 million. And they sold it now for R1 million because they are making now double the profit. But all of a sudden, B is like, whoa, where is my land? And their land is gone now. And this whole transaction is literally becoming a mess. And something that should have gone a little bit smoother, now you've got legal fees, and legal fees are not cheap. Those guys charge you anything from 2,000 to 3,000 Rand an hour. You don't want to have such kind of things on a project, but it is a reality. What can we do, man?
Yes. Yeah, it's a reality, and it's a sad reality. That's why I'm very much of the view that it's important to take our clients along, because really you find that honestly A and B, they had thought the process it's done. But to a certain extent, A discovered that no, it's not fully done. Then I have a way of getting my money and running out. Then B is left in their mind and on their plans. They have it that I have a piece of land, but suddenly that piece of land doesn't exist. The subdivision diagrams are there. Everything is there, but the Regulation 38 to transfer the land or the documentation for the land to be transferred have never been lodged, have never even spoken about. Nothing has been discussed. And now it's as if this process never have happened, because just imagine from 2014 up until now, they delayed with more than 6 years. You see, and they only had 24 months to do whatever that they needed to do, and also ask for an extension. But that was never done. Now they are left with this frustration. The other one sees an opportunity of money that is just somewhere they can see it because the bond has been approved, but they can't access it because there's this issue. Now they're even taking each other to court for litigation, and that can take 2, 4, 5 years, depending on how their advocates or their legal representative keeps on dealing with this matter. So it can take another, let's say they are fortunate, it takes 6 months. If they are not, the other one keeps on dragging and dragging and dragging. It can take long. And then what happens? You are busy paying rates and taxes on a land that you cannot use. The land is just laying dormant there. You must maintain it, cut grass, make sure that it's probably maintained, but you can't even use it because now the other party would go and interdict to say nothing must happen to the land up until the matter is resolved. You see?
100%. Dumisani, in your opinion, with where this deal is, in your opinion, what do you think, what should have done? We know what they should have done, right? But it's now water under the bridge. In your opinion, how can this be resolved without even going through the litigation route from a town planner perspective?
For me, the solution I gave them, and to a certain extent, because the tempos were already high and everyone was already high, and I don't think they got to understand what I was trying to say to them. I said to them, the subdivision doesn't exist. So sit down, come up with a deal, agree to say, I will still sell you portion, whatever that you want, then come up with a reasonable amount, because remember, both parties are losing here. So even if they give you a market-related fee for that land, maybe try and negotiate and say, okay, I'm agreeing to pay this amount subject to, let's do the subdivision. And this time when we do the subdivision, both of us commit that we'll go the process from the beginning up until the end together. Don't assign anyone to be in charge, but both of us. If the town planner has to update, they have to update both of us. If there's anything that needs to be dealt on that land, both of us have to be involved. And that way, they will have a smooth and simpler transaction, because going to court, I don't know how long it's going to take, but it's going to cost them even more money. And remember, even after that, if one of them wins the case, they still have an opportunity to appeal. An appeal can keep on going and going. So this thing can take years. So my advice is sit down, try and find each other. It has happened. So to be arguing about it and pointing fingers, it's not going to resolve. And the more you keep on pointing fingers at each other and doing that, you are wasting time that you could be capitalizing on. So for me, it's get a town planner, submit an application, have the subdivision done, have the regulation 38 done, then have the land transferred. After that, you can even evaluate it to see how much is it worth, then agree on a fee. Yes, you might lose a little bit of 100 there, or 5 cents there, or 20 cents there, but at least both of you would be having a piece of land. And remember, a piece of land always keeps on going high in terms of value. So the money that you might have lost maybe on the subdivision, within 2 years or 3 years, you would have made it back, maybe even double, because the area I'm speaking about is currently growing. It's not an area that is just dormant. It's an area that is growing. A lot of development, new schools, private schools, and all of that are coming in the area. Automatically, the value of that land will really increase. So my advice is they must just find sanity amongst this matter.
So Dumisani, basically what you're saying here, if one is found in a situation like this, sometimes going through the legal route is not the best route. You almost want to go into a mode of how best can we resolve it amongst ourselves with minimum impact. And if we are compromising, how far can we compromise amongst ourselves? So there has to be a fair compromising irrespective of where we are, because truth be told, legally, well, what was supposed to have happened didn't happen, but now it's a gentleman handshake. We all know, we can all see the paper trail, but what was supposed to have happened didn't happen. So now let's go into forging a relationship now of how best can we work around this and remove the ego around it, because that's what I'm seeing here as well, that there's potential ego here now happening. It's my property, I bought it. The law says, and I'm going to prove that, yes, the law is correct. Whereas there is other ways it can be dealt with, and the one solution that you've given. I think this is one of the other things that people don't talk about, Dumisani, when you're going into business, that sometimes you are going to compromise. Sometimes you need to work from a relationship perspective to sort out issues before you can apply or do courts and things like that, because really the courts are your last and be all. And also it's an expensive exercise. But hey, some people do have the money, you know, so they want to flex their muscle.
Exactly. And this is, you know, the city of Joburg has also given a bit of a leeway, which is what we call Section 66. So in their bylaws, Section 66 allows you to go and do representation through your town plan and said, this thing was approved at this particular time. However, we want to bring it back to life. So we are asking not to recirculate it or to re-advertise it. Then they will look at that and say, okay, it's still within a certain period. Maybe the only thing that might have changed is bulk contributions with 1 or 2%. We can just amend that. Then the application doesn't have to go through the life of starting from scratch and taking another 6 to 12 months. They can shorten it to about 4 months or even 3 months, because then they just go and relook at the file and say, okay, things are still the same. There's only minor changes which are not that material. Then you get your approval even sooner, you see. So other municipalities have that mitigation, you know, already in the system. So that's why it's important that your town planner would also have to look at the file and advise to say, okay, with this one, we are not going to follow the whole process because the application was approved. There was no objections. There was nothing. Council was happy with it. Let's just ask for exemption of certain stages. And council is ready to do that. Remember, the purpose of council is to create a conducive environment, not to constrain and refuse things, but is to create that environment where development can happen, where economy can grow. I know that sometimes we get challenges of things not moving according to the speed we are anticipating and all of that. But mind you, council is not there to block things. They are there to ensure that you get your development, you get the economy running with a limited restraint or with the limited restrictions as possible.
Awesome stuff. Dumisani, thanks a lot on this one. And I think my takeaway on this call today, on this particular topic that we're talking about, is sometimes remove the ego, find yourself and find others, and let's work together to resolve a particular problem.
Exactly.
Awesome stuff. Ladies and gentlemen, if you are finding yourself in a situation like this one, I suppose that you need to be contacting Dumisani. There is a link in the comments below, and in there you can literally jump in there and you can say that you'd like to reach out to Dumisani, and Dumisani will come back to you in terms of how he can be helping you, him and his office. But over and above that, I think that's it for today. We will check you on the next video.
Adios.